You got to be kidding. The perfect storm is on the horizon for the cycling industry, and we're about ready to get spanked in a bad way. Well, maybe. We'll see. Depending what position you are, either corporate or independent, you may have a silver lining in this. You may not have a snowball chance in you know where. In any case, I'm going to review the three perspectives of the 1, 2, 3 knockout punch is going to happen to the industry this coming spring. Welcome back to Annoy Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the Guy. As the wheel turns, so the days are our rides, and soap opera is nothing compared to reality when we're living in it in this cycling year. Crazy. 24 bust, 23 a downslope, 25 grab your hats. It's going to get really breezy for a lot of companies out there. Well, there's three main perspectives that are going to actually be a 1-2 knockout punch for the industry if it doesn't go well. Yes, I have some insights, but it's mostly my speculation or my opinion of being in the industry for over 35 years of what I've seen, ups and downs within the industry and my perspective of the front lines and what we're going to be dealing with going forward. Let's dive into the three topics. Before that, I want to mention that this show is brought to you by this old bike. Yes, you can look at the classic rebuilds and so forth on another channel. You can see me being featured working on classics like behind me and fancy old tools just as well. All right, let's get into the diving of the mystery of the 2025. Okay, number one is tariffs. Yes, you've seen enough videos on tariffs. I'm not going to go into detail. There are some great ones there. I'll put listed below that relate to the cycling industry in the description. Well, we're talking about tariffs. There's a couple looming tariffs are coming up in April. Before that, there's another 10% on top of China imports. What that's going to do is really affect the bottom line of those companies that are bringing in directly from China. Yeah. Well, what does that mean? Low-end bikes. Anything from Walmart to Target to Sports Academy, Big Five Sporting Goods, and even Dick's Sporting Goods and some other shops will be affected by that because those products are going to be 20% now over. That's not a margin that any company could sustain over a long period of time. So yeah, this is kind of a whiplash, gut punch. Are they going to get through it? You've already seen prices increase of the current tariffs, and this additional 10% is really going to hurt anybody in the middle to low class. That is really painful to say because majority of the bikes that are sold in the United States do come from Walmart, Target, and various others. The other 10 to 20% is your Trek Specialized Giant independent bike dealers. Yeah, numbers is quantity. Not to say the quality. In any case, it's really going to hit the middle class to low class income individuals, so they're going to dive into not get a bike at all or maybe used. The other looming one is in April, and that's been released in Bicycle Retailer. This is crazy because this hits other countries like Vietnam, maybe Cambodia, maybe even Taiwan. Because you're looking at the gloves are off in the administration and they're going to smack this tariffs on anybody that doesn't like appease whatever they're looking for. Not going to go there for the political portion of it, but it does have a directly effect of the actual cycling market. These particular tariffs, if they are applied, will directly affect the bigger boys. Trek, Specialized, Giant, Canyon, all those other ones, where they're kind of skating by because most of their stuff does not come from China. But in this case, this will actually give them a painful gut punch in their bottom line, which is going to trickle down or trickle up, whatever. In any case, it's going to be very painful for them, which is already coming off of a horrible season last year on top of a disturbing 2023. So all this disruption of tariffs and so forth are really going to affect their pricing or profit, where a lot of these companies are having razor thin margins already, now being eroded by these other, I wouldn't say foreseen, but foreseen administration issues. So therefore, it's going to be very troublesome going into the first quarter of this year. All right, we talked about the painful parts of tariffs. What's the second biggest issue is addressing the industry as a whole? The second punch is the current punch that's already hitting us, which is the economy. It's not very strong right now. People are very, well, nervous about keeping their jobs. In addition to, are they going to be able to afford the up and increasing prices of everything from eggs to you know what? So that has actually been a problem going into 2024 and extended through 2025, even escalates. Reason being is there's a lot of issues where people can't afford new bikes. Well, big boys, Trek Specialized, Giant, Canyon, and those others have really banked on the high end for the last 10 to 15 years. Well, they actually eroded their own pricing in the last year and a half due to the fact that the market completely dropped out underneath them. Have they readjusted for a better bike line for better price points? Nope, they did not learn their lesson. Unfortunately, they are the same mix, maybe less quantities, and then therefore they're just going to have the same problem. Well, what does this translate to independent bike dealers and also bike shops themselves? Well, they've been undercutting the prices for the last year and a half, so the actual customer base is already looking for that discount. 30 to 50% off, which is, yes, now the norm. If it's not on sale, they're not going to buy it. So therefore, going into 2025, there's not enough new stuff or new fancy widget or tech that's actually going to get people to actually drive down to the bike shop and pick up that $5,000 to $10,000 bike. Not just going to happen. A lot of releases in the last year have fallen very flat, and therefore the new tech is not really inspiring anybody to get new bikes. Well, going into 2025, pre-seasons have already been drawn up and bikes are already hit the bike shops with those particular prices. Well, unfortunately now with Specialized and Trek going to direct to consumer, this is not great because in about a month or two, if they decide to start discounting their bikes, that's going to erode any profit margin that an independent bike dealer is going to have because they're not going to get rebated the difference. They still have to pay Trek and Specialized those big bills. It is not a win-win with the big boys right now. And any independent bike shop right now is going to be very reserved on purchasing any bikes because they just basically got it handed to them last year. And yes, they're not going to repeat the same stupid mistake this year. So there's a lot of conflict from the independent bike dealer right now with the big boys, and in addition to Trek and Specialized having their own stores, trying to sell their own products. Well, that's fallen really flat, and guess what? They're closing a lot of stores because they just don't understand retail. Weird, right? Yeah, they got really aggressive and saw dollar signs in their eyes and they decided to do all these shops and now it's biting them in the butt. Well, unfortunately, that puts a lot of people that are really good in industry out of job. In addition to a lot of foul taste with independent bike dealers. This is not great. So compounded that with what? Bad economy, well, or unsecure economy or job market getting really soft. Yeah. A lot of those six-figure incomes are being eroded right now. Therefore, nobody's going to be buying anything anytime soon. That's a really big left hook. So let's go with the knockout punch. This is actually a portion that's really hurt the cycling industry over decades from probably the beginning. What is it? Weather. Weather or not? No, wait. Weather as in rain, snow, colder temperatures, and so forth. This is the beginning of March. Our 8 to 14 day outlook is looking like so. From the Midwest to the East Coast are looking above average temperatures, which might have a potential chance of nicer weather on the weekends. On the West Coast, shops are going to have a hard time if they have rain or cold or snow mix on the weekends going into the next 2 weeks of the month. This has always been a factor within retail with brick and mortar because people don't want to go buy bikes if it's crappy outside. Case in point, if you have snow every weekend and even though it's nice on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the 80s, they're still not going to buy bikes. They're still not going to go out and do that. That will kill the momentum of the retail front, which, guess what? Trek and Specialized and Pond have a finger in those particular storefronts. And that is very painful for local retail. I know for a fact, lived it, done it, yes. Looking at the weather, yeah, we may have a good insurgent on the East Coast of maybe better weather, therefore better sales, where granted, let's just face it, that's where majority of the population is. So actually that might drive a lot of business. But that is not safe to say. It's just a maybe, but If it turns crappy on certain weekends, that will kill that momentum. So weather is key to a lot of retail, especially outdoor retailers. Right hook, left hook, knockout punch, possibly scenario. But when you're really looking at all of this, why am I talking about this specifically in March? A lot of the industry basically will be dictated to the rest of the year because of March sales. That's the beginning of the actual season for us here, where a majority of the sales are done, here in Europe and abroad, not down south. You guys are just enjoying your summer and just now going in the fall. But in any case, up here where the majority of those big boy sales and a bigger market of cycling, European as well as the US, those scenarios can really hurt. And looking into March, if it comes flat, guess who's going to be dropping their pants on prices? All the big boys, which again will hurt the independent bike dealers that have purchased those bikes and now sitting on them, and then they have to erode their own little margins compared to the big boy margins. And guess what? It's not good for anyone. But there's a silver lining. The silver lining is not for Trek and Specialized and Giant for them. They've already made their bed and they're going to be sleeping in it, and it's going to be really horrible for them. But for the independent bike dealers, if they have not already, which most likely they have looked to the used market and used parts in addition to really robusting their service department. That's what's really going to carry them, and that has actually been proven by a lot of shops in the last year having record numbers versus a lot of shops that just sell new, which have been having a mediocre to bad year. Okay, this doesn't blanket every market and every corner of the cycling industry, but this is definitely a snapshot in some areas where they're losing a lot of shops, including corporate stores like Trek and Specialized. They're going to be shrinking down because they can't sustain those numbers. This is actually going into the third year of pain where we're not really seeing the end of this. Why? Because it keeps just getting worse. So how much more can this sustain? My big guess is some of these bigger players are not going to hold on, or they're going to be, I don't know, looking for other money. Why do I say that? A couple different key things. Well, one, Shimano has reported 5% down and actually not projected to do very well this coming year. They're one of the leading component manufacturers for most bikes, or a good portion of them anyway, that will dictate what is being actually been ordered and being shipped. That is not very good because that definitely shows a downturn of those particular product lines like Trek and Specialized and some other brands that don't report. And yes, that's definitely an indicator it's not going so well. Why do I say that? Well, the cycling industry is not a close-knit group. They are very competitive. They don't like to share. A lot of numbers are not reported. Therefore, somebody could be hurting a lot worse than others, and the successes are never shared as well. So it's been a very cutthroat industry for a long time, and that may need a change for any of these companies to sustain going forward. Will Trek still be around? Good chance, but you never know. And Specialized, well, they've had investment companies like Merida. This may happen again. And looking at Pond, which owns 50 different brands, they're starting to cut some of the brands loose. Yeah, and then you saw the European with Wiggle and Nukeproof and some other brands just completely dissolved and got rebranded. So the names are probably going to stay the same, but who owns them may not be the same. So therefore, you're going to have a lot of shell game shuffle going on to the next couple of years that they can't sustain, which most likely going into this year is not going to be good for them. But for the independent bike dealer that's really focused on service and really reserved on purchasing new bikes and just basically taking ownership of their market again and not letting the big boys dictate, because they can't. They don't have that particular leverage anymore. They just don't, because they're in just as hot water, if not more so. I don't know. Is it going to be worse? Most likely, unfortunately. Is it going to be good for some independent bike dealers like me that just work in the used market and service? Probably to be okay. And we're very flexible in the sense of shifting gears and going different directions, always looking for better opportunities to help our customers. That's at the end of the day, that's what it's really all about. Is the purchasing from customers going to improve in the next year? Maybe not for the high end, mid-range for sure, and used market most definitely, because they're still going to ride. We still have people out there riding. Man, I go on the bike ride like today, I'll see a ton of people on group rides and all that thing. It's the first part of March. So in any case, for my market, it's actually going to be pretty decent for those things. But for all the other companies, it is really going to be challenging. So March is actually the pivotal month that either will make or break some of these companies going into 2025. We'll recap this in April and see if it did improve or is it just going to get worse. In any case, thanks for hanging out with me in the garage. That's the snapshot of the industry, and thank you for hanging out with me. It makes you to make this channel, so thank you. I appreciate it. If it's nice in your neck of woods, please go for a ride. Until next time, have a wonderful day.